potentially replace tents so that what we're doing is replacing those tents and building shelters so that people can survive through wintertime. If you're in a tent, that's not something you're going to survive. So we teach folks how to build micro shelters. We teach them how to use tools. And, also the underneath of it all is we build empathy for folks who are unhoused that are facing all of these barriers, because there's no way you can go out and get a job if you can't bathe every day, if you don't have an ID, and if you don't have an address in order to get that ID. And that's something that a lot of people do, sometimes
I
forget.
guess what I'm asking is, what happened to make you think, hey, I have to do something?
Well, there was, a trigger of a couple of things in between that story. So I was working with an organization who basically couldn't afford to pay their managers, so they paid us in stock options. So I was working for a startup, IT professional, knew that that company was sometime going to go public and sell. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just take those stock options and figure that out later on. Well, it was many, many years later. And when I was bought out, I basically started a for profit company called Xavier Estates. We do property management, boutique kind of renovations throughout Baltimore. But when we were creating those homes and they were affordable, brand new interiors, no one was interested. Everybody's like, no, homes are expensive. Granny's house is dilapidated. It looks crazy. All these things. And it's like, well, I need to figure out a way to make an impact. And the way to do that was to help folks who are unhoused. There's no shortage of folks like that. There's no shortage of policies that impact people who are unhoused. Sleeping in public is illegal. So then where are they supposed to sleep? And all these other types of things that just impact people who are constantly inundated with barriers. And yet still people are like, you need to figure it out. And that just is ridiculous to me. So that this way I can be an advocate. I feel like I'm well
So,
spoken, and this gives me the opportunity to help. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no. So it's got to be more than just getting the homeless into one of your homes. I mean, obviously there's some other wraparound services that are needed. Is that a part of the itinerary?
Yes. However, that is not my ministry. My ministry would be to provide the services in the capacity that I can provide them in. But yes, to your point, we do work with volunteers and other organizations so that we are creating an opportunity for wraparound services and resources. Just like, Donnie, we were in your backyard doing community cleanups and getting people involved in cleaning up the neighborhood. And so that alone is something that kind of, already starts to build community. We typically do that in areas where there are folks who are unhoused. And so we're able to advocate for them while people are seeing, oh, this is a place where I didn't expect to see someone who was unhoused. I thought it only existed in this area. It creates conversation, it creates empathy. But to your point, yeah, it's more than just going out and replacing all of the tents, because one, that's not legal, right? But then two, that isn't really addressing the systemic issue. The systemic issue is all of these barriers. So teaching folks how to use tools, that could be a part of it if they so choose to be involved in that activity. And now they can build skills. We always have food, whether it's breakfast and lunch or just lunch, but they can come and eat food with us, break bread with us. There's plenty of opportunities to build community. So very much it's a community engagement, urban planning, undercover kind of resource. But at the root of it, like, let's get people involved, and teaching people how to use tools to build micro shelters is what gets people excited. So that is the draw of it all.
When did you start Smalltimore Homes?
Back in 2018.
What'd you do? How'd you get started?
How did I get started? Well, like I said, I had and still do have the boutique for profit, and I happened to be at a nail salon talking about, I really want to start doing this thing. We've been building these micro shelters. I have to figure out a way to break it away from my for profit business because my partner is like, this is not like, no, we're not a charity. You have to figure it out. And so from then, Smalltimore Homes, talking to somebody about practitioners, Leadership Institute, offered by Center for Urban Families over in West Baltimore, was my very first fellowship. And they really
Joe
taught me.
Jones.
Exactly. Yes, my big bro Joe. Okay, like they put me in line to understand like what social innovation was, how to look at social impact, perfecting my pitch. Because I was already engaging volunteers and doing the things, but they really helped to catapult and kind of boost Baltimore homes.
So what was your first project?
My first project was to build well, actually my first project was this trailer behind me. So this is a 20-foot trailer on wheels. It's 264 square feet. It has two lofts and a pull-out couch, a full kitchen, full bathroom. And after building that and spending, several $1,000s, I was like, this isn't sustainable. This isn't where I need to begin. And I scaled back to find my MVP, my minimal valuable project, something like that. My MVP, which ended up being my micro shelters. And so we started making partnerships with the community tool bank over in Pigtown. One of the shelters is still installed there. Shout out Noah and the crew. But yeah, they're over there on Wacomico, and we've built several shelters since then. One is installed in Bel Air, Edison, and we're probably going to install one in the Greenmount West area by the end of this summer.
So who have been, who have been some of the elected officials who support this effort?
No elected official has given me like written support, but I speak to folks like Odette Ramos. Last year, we helped to plan, and Project Healthy Communities is another collective that I'm a part of, but we helped to plan their senior engagement. Odette is really big on housing. I think I first met Odette when she was over, what is it, CDN, Community Developers Network, maybe. But anyway, speaking with Odette, who else have I spoke to? Zeke Cohen, we've kind of chatted. Dare I say, Ryan Dorsey, who's like a big advocate for ADUs and also bike lanes, which you're not so happy about, Donnie. But also, I'm not really,
Daggone way.
to be honest, Donnie, like where I'm at, politics really takes a long time. And I feel like politics puts a lot of us in a vulnerable place. So I'm more comfortable speaking to and building with community to make sure that there are neighborhoods that do want these types of villages before I do anything with Baltimore City. Because what I don't want to do is say, oh, there's a bunch of vacancy and blight here. Let's colonize this, make it a village. And then, like, that's what typical developers do. And the last thing I want to do is, like, be that typical developer.
Help me out. I mean, what do you mean? What's typical about developers? They only care about themselves, making money.
Yeah, it's the bottom line. No one cares about, the triple bottom line. Who are we impacting? How many jobs are we creating for the neighborhoods that we're building in? What are we improving? Are we creating less opportunities or more opportunities for people who already live in this neighborhood? Are we displacing people? Are we outpricing our seniors? Like, I will be the first to say all neighborhoods need new development to maintain and to remain consistent in the market if it isn't, fully populated, fully occupied. But I'll also say that West Baltimore and these $400,000 homes that are popping up is very interesting, but we have to consider that they're not being made for the people that already live in those communities. And so, as a developer, speaking for myself, I don't want to go into a community where, one, it's going to cause trauma to the people who are in the villages, or cause angst and anxiety for the people already living in those communities.
When we discuss racism, institutional racism, what also comes to mind is redlining. Because of the segregation, does it cost more to live in West Baltimore? Car insurance, house insurance.
Yes,
I was having a conversation last night just about our water bills. I mean, my bill is like $80 a month. That's a lot of money. That's almost $1,000 a year for water.
And it's out of control.
It's not like that in the county.
It's not. And so the mayor came up with, what is it? I think there was a plan for water for all or something, some sort of water subsidiary. I'm not sure who qualifies for it or who's benefiting from it. But from what I understand, you're not the only person that's complaining. And that was supposed to be a resource for community members. So when I show up in spaces and we're talking about these things, like I talk about the fact that the tiny home that I built costs less than $100,000. But when it comes to the horizontal infrastructure and the fact that because of Maryland policy, you have to tie into electricity, sewage, gas, all of these things, it almost makes it cost prohibitive and closer to $150,000 just to put the tiny home that's already built on this land and, as the full cost. So yes, it costs more to live in West Baltimore because the infrastructure is worse. And you have to pay for those houses that have the trees growing through them. Like, you're paying for those taxes. You have to subsidize that, basically.
Is East Baltimore the same?
East Baltimore has its pockets where there are problems, but East Baltimore has, Johns Hopkins and other anchor institutions which help to keep the development consistent, which helps to make the taxes pay for the things that, you all are seeing end up being additional fees in your utility bills because somebody has to pay it somewhere. So the money is just, it exists, but unfortunately it's coming out of your pocket instead of some big institution. Like Coppin isn't going to be able to subsidize something like that, right? But Coppin is definitely building up and getting better with their development activities. So hopefully we'll see a change.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about is gentrification.
Mm-hmm.
They say that Baltimore, I've read it, is the last East Coast city to gentrify.
I don't know. The White L is pretty damn gentrified to me. Like there's been a lot of history lost there. So, I mean, it depends on where you want to talk about the gentrification is occurring. Because like I said, in West Baltimore, there's $450,000 homes that are popping up near the MARC station because of the speculation of the speed train, right? So we have to keep that into consideration. And then thinking about, like I said, all the development that's in the White L. And for those that don't know, that's outside of the Black Butterfly, which would be like your West Baltimore areas, your Cherry Hill area, those types of areas would be your Black Butterfly.
Johns Hopkins University, straight downtown and then over to East Harbor.
Yeah, like, but you come in at 95 right there by the two stadiums, right? You see it so clear. And then you go through the harbor, you go through the water, you pass through, you hit Boston and President Street over there, and then you go right back out on the highway. So it's like you don't even have to see like the heart or the culture of Baltimore. So the gentrification has already happened, if you ask me.
Quita, when you go to East Harbor, and I don't think it's there anymore, but they had a sandbox over there. They had a restaurant, a sandbox. There are hotels over there with this long, look like the Taj Mahal, a swimming pool. And you know that people in West Baltimore have never seen this. What does that do to the mind, to the psyche? When I saw it, my mind was blown. I'm like, in Baltimore?
Yes, the problem is it makes you feel unworthy. It gives you, it puts you in a box of what is my value and why don't we deserve or get things like that? Why aren't we worthy of things like that? What did I do that I can't just walk out my backyard and go to the sand lot and play in sand as a whole grown adult, right? So it's thinking about equitable development and making sure that we aren't targeting specific areas and that we are creating new development opportunities in spaces where they're not going to displace people, because Baltimore has more than 16,000 vacant lots. Like, there's tons of spaces that we can choose from that would not displace folks. And granted, some of them are not in the best I guess, the best places, but that's because Baltimore is a food desert. We lack jobs, we lack transportation. But if we can just start to repair these things one by one and continue to address them cyclically, like this is a whole ecosystem. And if we continue to pretend like the white L is the only place that money needs to go, that resources are going to be continue to be taken from the white L in an illegal fashion, the way that they have been. Like, this is just the way that things work. Like, if we can't get it in our communities, we're going to go to the nearest place to get what we need to survive. Like, if you put people in cages, they act like animals. Like, come on, people, work with me.
Quita, when you see young people on the news being reported to have gone down to Fells Point and caused a ruckus, what comes to your mind?
I mean, where else could they have been before they got there to engage them? What other activities could they have been doing to be engaged? Because the way, I mean, now I do think about how summertime, the parks are open a little bit later, but they all say get off of the property when the sun goes down. Like, kids are still, nobody going to school. Like, kids want to be outside till 10, 11, 12 o'clock. Like, I understand maybe midnight is a bit late, but I was a kid before, and we just want to be outside communing with one another. We don't necessarily have to be getting in trouble, but where's that place? Because anywhere else is considered loitering. So all the things, where could they have gone? Because we know the rec centers are closing. We know the after school programs end by 6 o'clock. They're not being hired to work at places. So what's the alternative?
Where do you see our kids' mental health at these days?
Definitely declining. Even the kids that are considered, coming from the homes that have the best money, the best opportunities, the best resources, I think it's definitely declining. Like, they're between having to learn at COVID and then having all these big breaks in between. I feel like their literacy is declining, their mental health is declining, even mental capacity, like the ability to feel like you can conquer the world. I know it was well after college till I realized I wasn't invincible. And kids are like realizing that now. And so to me, that's kind of weird. It's like, no, we got to tap into your superpower. And they're like, you see in the news, you see what happens. That this world is not built for me, and I need to just chill in the back and be quiet. And it's like, no, that's not cool.
One state senator told me that monies could not be brought to West Baltimore for a new school because there weren't enough kids in the neighborhood. I didn't know there was a law that said you have to have so many students in order to go to a school. But I remember Martin O'Malley had the 21st Century Schools project there. New schools going here, there, new recs. I like the new rec at Cherry Hill, at Cahill. But we need them East Baltimore, West Baltimore. The same neighborhoods that are on the news every night.
Right. I mean, but also when you think about it, right, like these schools that exist, as a developer, I think one of the things that people find so easy to overlook and forget about is the idea that we should be like maintaining these spaces after they're built. Like the maintenance is always an afterthought. We don't consider the fact that Baltimore has harsh winters, the salt messes up the streets, the usability of everything, the utilization, kids coming in and out, being rough, kicking things just because they have all this extra rambunctious energy. I don't think that we really think about maintenance. And so the schools are horrible AC. Maybe the heat doesn't work. The windows are broken. No one's thinking about these things. And then it's like, well, don't the schools have insurance? Like homeowners have to get insurance. The insurance doesn't cover these types of things. And why does it take so long to get things fixed in East Baltimore or West Baltimore where the kids aren't going to a private school? So,
Because
I mean,
you're black.
racism,
You're black.
right? Racism. It's like when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, it's racism. And so being able to speak truth to power, recognizing it, seeing where the oppression exists and where the microaggressions exist, and even the cultural assumptions that we make. Like it's just it's
Quida,
exhausting.
now in West Baltimore in particular, I'm seeing a whole new category of homeless addicts since Freddie Gray.
Well, yeah. Well, now we have the what are they? I don't even remember what they call. Are they methadone clinics now?
No. What I mean is we have white addicts in the black community now.
Donnie, here you go. So, I mean,
Everywhere. And I mean, they talked about the squeegee kids like it was nobody's business. They dogged the squeegee kids.
right. But
But now
racism.
you got a whole new group of people on the corner that walk up to your car. And I take offense. Step back. I fear for my life.
I understand.
I don't like people walking up on me.
Me neither. Me neither. We from Baltimore. Like that's how you get got. And now Maryland is a carry state. Like all things about that sound bad to me. But yeah. So I mean, I think about how like white folks have always people who did not belong in the community have always drove to the community to come and get what they got and then get out of here. But I think the issue is that people, like everyone is making less money. So the way that they used to just get out of here isn't really like getting out of here. Like they might have walked their butt across town to get their little fix, and now they gotta walk back, and they done started the fix before they got back home, Donnie. So now you get to see the remnants of it all. Like when it really comes down to it, like transportation has gotten harder and worse. All the
So
things. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
one of the things I wanted to ask you about is the give back. I mean, we've talked about it. He went to Spelman, got pretty good step up on life. But one thing we see in our community is people, as soon as they get that nice job, and that's fine. Even the churches. I won't call no names. It's Monday. I'm being peaceful. Church hardtail out. They going out there. Who's going to serve the inner city? Because what I'm seeing, in addition to the white addicts, I'm also seeing white homeowners. I see us being replaced. Those same houses that grandma had, we gave them up. We didn't even pay the taxes. There's a house on my corner. People just walked away.
It ends up being a burden. It ends up being a burden, and but still, like, that's still a part of it. That's still a part of the racism. So here's the thing, right? You live in West Baltimore. There's more vacancy. There's more blight, which means it's more difficult for you to get insurance for your home, which means it's harder for you to get a HELOC for your home, which is a home equity line of credit, so that you can improve your roof so that next winter you're not getting leaks, and next spring you're not having water pouring in on the top floor, right? So all of these barriers continue to make it harder and harder for you to maintain your home. And then COVID happens and you lose your job, or now you're working at a job that your hours have been significantly cut. Like, these things continue to be barriers for folks to maintain and keep their homes. And then also the SOS Fund and folks like Bree Jones and Nika Namdi, they've been working toward making sure that your home can't be taken away from you from not paying your water bill. And I believe, yeah, because there's what is it called, Donnie? And they do it every year where they put the folks that
Forgiveness.
not
The tax sale.
yes,
Tax
tax sale. Like, that's predatory as hell. So you mean I've been living in my house for years and years and years, and because I didn't pay a water bill that was a couple $1,000s, and there's a tree growing through the damn whatever, and that's using more water, and that's something that the city should have kept up, and but they are taking thousands of homes this way, like hundreds of homes this way. And so there are people that are fighting to make it so that that's illegal, because that's crazy. And then right after it's done, people come right behind and say, no, we want that to be implemented again, because that is our predatory way of acquiring homes, and that's how we redevelop in Baltimore.
I'm gonna tell you something else that's predatory, and we're starting to see more and more of it. I see it on my block. I see them trying. Squatters.
Oh yeah, just moving in, getting mail. Part of the reason.
Huh?
Go ahead.
The 3 houses next to me are privately owned. Nothing happened to them. Years. And people always say, Donnie, you should buy it. I didn't set out to go out and buy houses. I thought the block would be able to maintain itself. Maybe it is something that I have to look into, but should there be any relief from the city? I mean, that alone is mentally challenging. Knowing that you got to watch the vacants next door. My God.
There are
because addicts will go in there too, not just the squatters, but the addicts.
Right. I mean,
wintertime fires.
Squatters, folks who are formerly living in tents, but then wintertime comes and they need something with a real roof over it. Like, all of that happens. It is racism. I don't know how we're going to fix it. There are some relief programs, but the relief programs tend to be specifically for our seniors, or specifically for someone who is differently able. So just your typical Donnie Glover, like, you're probably not going to get the assistance that is needed unless you can prove that you are going to be 65 in 9 months in a certain amount of time. Do you know what I mean? So even still, there's barriers to getting those resources. And then even after you get the damn subsidy or the resource, you have to make sure that the contractor or the person that you're working with is going to do the work right and not going to take your shirt, because if they do it wrong, now you got to take them to court. And that's another thing to think about. Like, who has time, energy, money, all the things. We have created an environment for bad actors to thrive.
We are rewarding bad behavior. One other dynamic, and I'm gonna leave the people alone after this, but we have a burgeoning Latino population. As a matter of fact, they're some of the hardest people I've ever seen work in my life. Right across the street, another incident. These Latinos come in, I guess it's been 2.5 months now, and they have completely transformed a Baltimore City vacant that had half a roof, half a back wall, and the women work as hard, if not harder, than the men. And going to the mental health component of this show, a black man came up to me and said, "Hey man, look at them Latinos coming in our neighborhood taking over." I'm like, dude, this house has been vacant for decades. What are you waiting for? What's this? So help me understand it. I don't want to blame them. I applaud them. Fix another one.
I mean, like the populations are increasing. Like that's all that we can expect is that we're going to see more of other people coming into Baltimore, especially knowing that folks who are skilled and can build houses can make a killing here. Like, why wouldn't this be the place that people can build up houses in 2 months and take the tree that was growing in and turn it into something that a three intergenerational, right? Now people are going up and down the steps and all types of things, and they're having cookouts in the backyard. Like that's creating community. So you, me, and the people who know that this is necessary to keep communities going, I think that we realize that that's kind of what should happen. Like we don't have we haven't cornered the market to own all the houses in West Baltimore. Furthermore, half of them are blighted, and these are the ones that they're taking over. So I say more power to you because people lose their shirts trying to do less.
So where are we going as a city? I mean, and I want to go back to the give back. You care enough. You have a for-profit, you have a non-profit, Smalltimore Homes, the tiny homes. I was sharing with you about the brain drain. That was the article I read years ago. Brain drain, urban flight, leaving West Baltimore, going to Randallstown. Other groups are seeing, oh, okay, these black people are gone. Let's move back to what used to be a white neighborhood.
Right. Yep.
How do we get our people to care more?
I don't know that we can, because it is recognizing like that the culture has you all the way messed up, which is what I had to realize. Like I'm like, oh, I have to make a certain amount of money and be in a certain position and just keep climbing that corporate ladder, keep going. But at the end of the day, like I was getting sick before I would go to work, and my nerves were really bad. My eye was twitching. Like my body was telling me that you're going into a place that is really bad for you. And yet the culture of it all is, well, I have to keep acquiring, achieving, consuming, acquire, achieve, consume, crawl up this ladder. So until we can take a step back, breathe for a moment, realize that we are more than our productivity, we are more than what we can contribute, that just existing creates value, we're going to continue to knock each other down when we see somebody doing something that we think that we can or can't or should be doing. Like there's so many things, there's so many layers that we have to do as uncovering, ourselves as like a human onion. So until we can get into mental health and stop saying stuff like, oh, therapy's for white people, and understand that it's for everybody, especially folks who have been enslaved in a society that wants to pretend like it didn't exist and not put books in schools where your history is accurately portrayed. All of these are things that, mess with your psyche. So until we can address the fact that we are a part of the propaganda, we are a part of the culture that is perpetuating this nonsense, it's going to be hard to turn around communities. Like, we have to look deeply within ourselves. We have to begin to love on one another, show others that, there's more than just what we see on TV, just what we consume, just what we've been told. is the ideal. Because we don't all want picket fences and white and houses with yards, right? Like some of us want to live in high rises and overlook the city. I don't know.
What makes you stay here?
Oh, you know what? It's getting close, Donnie. I did some research, and typically it takes 7 to 10 years to start a tiny home community. I told you I started this thing in 2018, so Baltimore got 4 years. So, what makes me stay here? Looking at the the statistics of it all. I'm the oldest of three girls, and my sisters and my nieces were all living here, but they don't move. My parents were living here; they've moved.
Where
So
they move?
my parents moved to Savannah. Shout out them. They retired in Savannah and they've been there for quite a while now. They've been there for over 5 years now. And then my sister just moved to Atlanta, and my niece is going to Clark in the fall. So they both moved down there. And I'm like, well, Georgia might be calling my name, honey, because they already got a couple of tiny home communities and they're already talking about luxury tiny home living and understanding the concept. And it's only so much fighting I'm going to do before I just go where I'm welcomed and arms are open wide. And Atlanta's Black Hollywood. Like, that's my vibe. Like, I'm cool with that.
Atlanta, huh? It's hot there now.
It is. It is. I'm okay with that. Go ahead and let this hair kink up and put it in some twists, and she'll be fine. I'm okay with the only thing is the traffic and the pollen, Donnie. Like, I might need to get a helicopter.
Who has been a big help to you as you have developed Smalltimore Homes?
Oh my goodness, you have been a big help. You have been a big help. I think that me being able to have a show and be able to talk my stuff and formulate my ideas in real time makes me a better speaker. And, it makes me be able to show up in places without being super anxious. It's like I've been doing this for so long. Like, it is what I know. And if I don't know, I'm not afraid to say I don't know. And then if I say, some things I don't care about because it's not my ministry. Like, I can't speak to that and I can't be expected to know that. And I'm not going to pretend like I should because you asked the question in such a way that should make me feel like, well, why don't you? Well, because that's not my ministry, baby. That's not a part of what I'm doing. And I'm confident and comfortable in saying that. So you've helped me, but also, like I said, I'm a professional fellow. So Wendy Blackwell and Joe over at CFUF, they helped me to understand this fellowship life. Bunting over at Hopkins and Repka, I'm not going to even try to say your last name, but those folks, they have helped me to formulate ideas. Open Works over in the Greymount West area, Loyola, all of my fellowships, like, they definitely double back. Like, what's Smalltimore Homes doing? How can we help? Here's a resource. And, behind the scenes, we're working on those things. So if I were to be completely candid, I still understand that folks do not want unhoused people in their backyard. I am speaking to women with children and senior citizens about universally designing tiny homes for their specific population and creating villages with their specific wraparound services until we can find a space that is like, absolutely, we want veterans who may have PTSD, we want foster youth that haven't graduated from high school or even college yet. Like, these are some of the folks that people feel like they may not deserve housing, really. Like, they're like, well, what? And they get really, temperamental about it. So saving the grannies and the mamas is where I'm going to start and continue to have conversations about that. So if there are any funders that are into that kind of thing, smalltimorehomes.org, holler at your girl, because universal design is something that we need to consider, especially because these senior houses have 2 and 3 year waiting lists. Like, our seniors don't have that much time.
Have you seen small houses in other cities and other countries?
Yes, in Atlanta, like I said, they have tiny homes that are 400 to 600 square feet, going for upwards of $200,000. These are tiny homes, y'all, $200,000. So I know the market exists. I know that there is a market that would bear this creation. But those that focus on people who are unhoused, or housing insecure, Oregon has it on lock. Oregon is historically racist, though, so I'm not surprised that they
Where?
Oregon, the other side of the world, the
I
other
have been,
side of the country.
I have been there. They have
What?
homelessness like you would not imagine.
Yes, but the whole state, like black people were illegal until like the 90s. So when you say that these ridiculous ordinances existed, where you see them like being the heavy, most heavily restricted.
Implemented.
Yes, you see the most disparities. Like Oregon, black folks were illegal until the 90s, even though they weren't enforcing it, right? But they're like, oh, nobody's paying attention to that. And the black folks are like, yeah, so take it off the books. But they're like, but nobody's paying attention to it. Yeah, so take it off the books, like just not even understanding that it should have never been on the books in the first place. So, yes,
I have a Mars brother out there in Portland, and I get reports on a regular basis. Portland is wow.
it is. It is. Seattle, they also have like a huge homeless population and are killing it in a tiny home game. So yes. Yeah. Hey Kamal. Good to see you as well. Look, my big hair, it'll be back. It'll be back. I had to go to a couple of graduations and stuff, but don't worry. The fro is still up under here, y'all. Don't worry. She ain't going nowhere.
So you mentioned Portland, Atlanta. I wonder,
Yeah.
have you seen anything online like of small homes in other countries?
Oh, yes, for sure. Sweden, Australia, the Netherlands, all of the almost everywhere, Donnie, because you also have to consider, like, I liken some of the tiny homes and the organization of it all to shanty towns. Like in South Africa, when I went to Soweto, there were shanty towns kind of everywhere. And essentially, they were not much bigger than the sheds that we build, and had a full size door, full size window, but porta potties around the whole encampment because there's no running water. Solar panels on all of them because there's no underground electricity. So they are everywhere. Like, we really need to adopt it because it's an affordable housing option.
So Quida, when you coming back on the network?
Listen, the way my time is set up, honey, eradicating homelessness be taking up all my time. But I'm gonna be back. I'm gonna be back, and it'll probably be like a half-hour show. But I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna do the thing. I'm gonna make it happen. I promise.
You're always welcome on my show. And this cat Kamal, we like to get Kamal back talking about his crypto and Bitcoin and all of that stuff.
Look, Kamal is the person to talk to when you need to know all the digitech, the coins of it all. Get into it. Yes.
So what's on the agenda for the rest of 2024 for you?
Yeah, so folks can come out to Lake Montebello every second Saturday of the month. Project Healthy Communities. We are out there with a physician to talk to the community. Walk with a Doc is a national kind of initiative, but we've enhanced it to add movement, mindfulness. We walk around the lake, and we also do a community conversations where we make connections and resources. So if you're looking for a job, you want to share a job, you want to talk about your new program, you're looking to recruit people, come out to Project Healthy Communities every second Saturday of the month, 9 a.m., Lake Montebello, the corner of Hillen and 33rd. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on. Go to smalltimorehomes.org and subscribe.
So any suggestions for our leaders? We got a black governor, black attorney general, black speaker of the house, black mayor, comptroller, city council president. Well, Z Cohen's going to be the new one. But we have blacks in prominent positions like never before.
Right.
What would you hope that translates into Wow.
I hope that they resist the status quo. I hope that they dig deeper. I hope that they tap into community resources and really find out and begin to address root cause issues, not just give subsidies to put a band-aid on something, but really think about how we can create sustainable and resilient communities, address redlining, address the fact that there are no jobs that pay a living wage, unless you have a car and can drive, 30 minutes outside of Baltimore. Like all of these different things that impact our communities, and we try to blame it on the people in them. I really do hope that there's some root cause analysis going on and some funds distributed to community organizations that are doing the work that they obviously cannot.
And what would you recommend for the average Baltimore citizen in terms of being a part? If I want to see something better in my neighborhood, what onus do you put on me? I mean, obviously, just voting
Easy.
alone
Like
is not going to do it.
start off as being an urban planner. Go to your community association meeting, go to your neighborhood library or community rec and see what's going on. And I say that in the sense that find out how you can volunteer, how you can support, how you can help, how you can contribute if you have that capacity. If you don't have that capacity, go into your community association meetings. You get to meet people in your neighborhood, you're socializing, and you get to contribute what your thoughts are as community development happens. But getting out into the community, becoming like a local urban planner, block captain, whatever that looks like. And then if you don't feel safe doing that, come to Lake Montebello, second Saturdays, and talk to me, and we can go to some meetings together.
Let me ask you this. Kamal is out there in the Bay Area. I understand that San Francisco has some challenges. That's some of the most expensive real estate ever.
Woo,
But they
woo.
got this year homelessness all over.
Look, look, LA and Skid Row and what they're dealing with is unbelievable. But the fact of the matter is, it's going to continue. It's going to get worse, and houses aren't getting cheaper. So we can expect that it's going to begin to look like that if we don't figure out a solution on how to create more jobs that pay a living wage, more affordable housing. And by affordable housing, whatever the hell it is that people are making, they can afford to pay rent. Like I don't know what else to say about affordable housing other than whatever their rent is or whatever income they have. And guess what? If folks don't have income, we need to figure out some other way that they can barter, trade, or do something because the American way is not to give anything away, but something needs to be figured out because it's
Quid,
going to happen every year at some point.
are you optimistic?
I can be. I can be. I think I'm more realistic than anything. Like, I'm not going to keep bumping my head against the wall, but I can talk some power into something if I need to. But at some point, it's like, this ain't working. We need to adjust or tweak or like re-examine what was the goal in the first place.
Okay. I want you to take a moment and do a final plug for Smalltimore Homes. I am proud of you, proud to know you. And look, other day, you guys came over, what, a couple summers ago and helped me clean up the playground. Other
Yep.
night, I'm walking Faro, it's dark, and I see somebody carrying this long piece of cardboard, but it's dark. And I'm like, am I seeing things? He's carrying the cardboard, and I kind of sense where he's going to go. He's going underneath of the sliding board to lay out this mat. I guess the cops and Z's.
Yep.
Still picking up needles off the playground. How people can shoot dope where kids play is beyond me. But thank you for all of your help. And I'm just saying we might need to do another cleanup sometimes.
We will definitely do another cleanup. Let's go ahead. So what I have learned, Donnie, since then is that y'all, if we're gonna work together, I need some letters of support. I be out here every day, all day doing stuff. And so I need the letters of support to like recap what it is that we've done when we did it so that I can continue to get funding to show up in communities, even when there is no fee. But guess what? My time is valuable, baby. And I love to build with community, but also sustainability. I got bills to pay. I'm happy to show up in communities, but just give me a letter of support. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking. Donnie, I appreciate this. I appreciate you. I am happy to be here. And let me know when I can come back, just in case I'm
And
not.
now you also sell homes. You have a for-profit business.
I do Xavier Estates, where we do property management, home revitalization. We're working on a project now in Virginia. It's on the lake. We're thinking of doing like retreats and stuff there, but we might just put it on the market and come closer to home and do something here. But yeah, the plan is always to be able to pay the bills, but still show up for a community whenever it's necessary because we're stronger together. Period.
All day long. Much love, Quida. Always a pleasure. You've been
Love
watching the
you
New
so
Life
much.
Recovery Show by Mr. Vin McCormick. 410 or 240-253-3663. Drug addiction, alcohol addiction, gambling addiction, or whatever your addiction might be, this place can help you. If I think better, I do better. And thanks again, Quida. Have a great afternoon.